Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the 1984 film Ghostbusters, starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Annie Potts, Rick Moranis, William Atherton, and Ernie Hudson, directed by Ivan Reitman. Now, I remember sort of growing up with these movies and thinking, this is some good humor and some good effects for 1984. Let's see if that still holds up. Let's get into this because I'm leading up to the Ghostbusters Afterlife, which will be coming to home viewing very soon. Let's get into it. We start with the librarian in the New York Public Library witnessing some ghosts moving books around which is a paranormal activity kind of stuff happening, except it's ghosts, not demons, as the papers come flying out of shelves, and we get the terrific song by Ray Parker Jr. as we move on to Peter Venkman, or Dr. Peter Venkman, played by Bill Murray, antagonizing a male student by shocking him when he guesses wrong, while the female student named Jennifer doesn't get shocked after he leaves. Peter talks with Jennifer about her mind until Dr. Raymond Stantz, played by Dan Aykroyd, enters the room. And I like these characters because they're witty, funny, and this is a heartwarming comedy with ghosts in it. And as it's simple as that, and I like it quite a bit. And I love the way Bill Murray jumps up and slaps Dan Aykroyd and says, "I'm right in the middle of something, Ray." And it cracks me up, which is something Paul Feig will fail to do in the remake when I get there, as I have a lot to say about that remake, but I'll save it for then, for that show. But this movie right off the bat has some much more relatable characters than probably the future, in my opinion. Ray wants Peter to come with him to the library to solve the ghost problem with Dr. Egon Spangler, played by Harold Ramis. And as they get there, they ask the librarian some questions about the ghosts, as Egon gets a signal saying the ghost is moving and we see a bunch of stocked up books and versus ghost slime and a mess it made in the library, and they search for the ghost, and as they do, they try to communicate with it, and as the ghost shushes Peter and Ray have a plan to get her as they get close to it and scares the willies out of them, which is the funniest thing anyone could do in real life and in the movies. Their boss, Dean Yeager, fires them, three scientists, from the university they worked at, and Peter gets an idea of starting a business of busting ghosts. From Ray's parents' loan and buy a building for their business. And again, these characters are relatable as I enjoy being around them. We move on to Dana Barrett, played by Sigourney Weaver, coming back to her apartment with some groceries and talks with her neighbor, Louis Tully, played by Rick Moranis, who's really annoying in this movie. But hell, it's Rick Moranis in general, despite I don't like his character. Dana hears her eggs explode, and something's in her refrigerator it's the colony led by Zool, which is a creepy looking setup for the refrigerator, and the effects do look pretty damn good from the 1980s. The Ghostbusters hire Janine Molnitz, played by Annie Potts, as I get the impression she's in love with Egon right away, which makes perfect sense for their relationship as he's a good listener while Dana comes in the Ghostbusters office and talks with Peter, as we'll see later on he's in love with her as soon as he sees her. And Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver have great chemistry when they act together on their scenes. Work great. Peter gets to Dana's apartment to find the ghosts in places where she didn't describe it, and eventually gets to the refrigerator, and they don't see Zool, but they see a pack of food, and she throws Peter out of the apartment as he's really in love with Dana, but she doesn't love him back, which is good characterization, thanks to director Ivan Reitman. They toast to their first customer and gets a call from a hotel in New York as they go to the address with some funky but classic-looking uniforms, as theirs are the uniforms to never forget from this movie. And as far as the car, I love the car for the design, as it's a classic design. They get to the 12th floor and to find ghosts, as Ray finds one named Slimy, as Ray tries to capture it but misses until Peter finds it and stares at the ghost. and comes up to Peter and slimes him as the ghost goes to the ballroom on the ceiling, and they go after it by shooting the ceiling and the wall, and they set up a trap to capture the ghost and are successful by getting it in the trap. And Peter says, "We came, we saw it, we kicked its ass." And that's the best line in the movie, as they become loved by reporters and the world as they become popular with everyone. And the montage while playing the classic song is the best song for the movie. Janine interviews Winston Zeddemore, played by Ernie Hudson, and they hire him, and he's a great addition to the Ghostbusters team. Peter visits Dana at a playhouse, where Peter tells her what Zool is and it wants to get together with her, and she reluctantly accepts, as he's happy about it as Ray, Egon, and train Winston on how the machine that imprisons the ghosts work. And I like the way we get to know these characters right off the bat, as they're making me laugh hysterically. Peter hears someone from the EPA named Walter Peck, played by William Atherton, who wants to get rid of the Ghostbusters. For what reason? Because he's led to believe they're frauds. And I love to hate him in this movie as the antagonist, as William Atherton does a good job playing that kind of character. Dana gets to her apartment as her building is getting invaded by Zool, as Zool possesses Dana's body, while Louis has a party and a demon pops out of the bedroom and attacks and possesses Louis, while everyone ignores him as they think he's making a fool out of himself. Peter comes to Dana's place while Zool is in her body, and she asks if the Keymaster was Peter, while Peter witnesses the demon inside and taking over the Dana, and Louis is asking for the gatekeeper, and the cops drop off Louis to the Ghostbusters, and these demons are pretty scary as they act strange, and I'm scared to this point. I'm laughing with the characters. Ray and Winston drive the Ghostbusters car as they talk about God briefly, and I like that piece of dialogue. Walter comes in with a warrant and wants to turn off the machines and let the ghosts free and shut down the Ghostbusters, and as they turn it off, it explodes while Ray and Winston right back to the building while Walter gets the Ghostbusters arrested. The ghosts terrorize New York, and Dana's building is Zool's palace and is turned into a spooky castle while the Ghostbusters sit in jail, as the mayor asks for them in his building, and the Ghostbusters talk with the mayor as well as Walter, as the Ghostbusters make the case and tell them they can stop the ghosts and make a deal with the mayor. If they're right, let them do their job, and if they're wrong, they'll enjoy jail, and the mayor agrees and goes to Dana's building as it gets darker and darker, and this is so far the best climax in a scary kind of way. While the characters are relatable, but this movie prepares the fighting of ghosts versus the Ghostbusters. They walk upstairs to the top of the building where they meet Zool and his pet, dogs, let's say, and as they get there, the demonic dogs run to Zool, and they encounter Zool and asks, "Are you a god?" And Ray says no and faces the Ghostbusters to the edge of the building. They try to fight off the demon with their neutralizers and almost catch the demon until the demon tells them to make a decision, as Ray made one in his mind, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walks in and destroys not only a church but tries to destroy the building next to the church, and the Ghostbusters work together on destroying the castle, while shots are connecting to destroy not only Marshmallow Man, but the evil demon, as the Ghostbusters are covered in the marshmallows, as the dogs turn back into Dana and Louis, and get them out and save the day, and the credits roll with them as heroes, and the Ray Parker Jr. song pops up while the credits roll, and the climax was a hell of a lot of fun, like this whole movie was. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.9 out of 10. The characters are witty, funny, and relatable from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end of the movie, and that the Ray Parker Jr. song is brilliant and is a masterpiece song from this movie. There were times the movie was scary, sure, but I enjoyed how scary it was, but at the same time hilarious, as this whole movie is a hell of a lot of fun. There's a reason this movie's a classic, as it's a great time at the movies, and it's a great way to start off this retrospective series, and I'm looking forward to what happens next. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Ghostbusters 2. And until then, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass!